Let's explore how meditation can help with election anxiety. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question is titled, Severe Anxiety, Thinking About the November Election. And the individual wrote, my stomach is hurting from the stress. I wake up and think about it. The whole day I think about it. I go to sleep thinking about it. All the horrible things that could happen if it goes one way. I feel sick and can't function like this. I need help to deal with this, please. So my basic strategy is to start with broad brush strokes. Take care of housekeeping for about 30 seconds and then go into fine details. I want to begin with the wisdom of asking for help. Homo sapiens sapien has a superpower. It's not found in the fleetness of foot or the strengthness of arm. It is not found in the length of claw or the sharpness of fang. It's found in cleverness and cooperation. And ironically, there is a mutually beneficial relationship for the two. Our cleverness is multiplied by our cooperation. And so we are wired to ask for help. And so I applaud anyone who is able to set aside their social anxiety or their pride and do just that. Choose vulnerability and ask for help. So, well done, you. I'm going to begin with something that could sound counterintuitive. Anxiety is an evolutionary necessity. There's an entire part of our limbic system devoted to fear and aggression. In the 70s, a prominent biologist explained that nature only makes sense when seen through the lens of evolution and natural selection. Virtually every animal without anxiety perishes, does not live long enough to reproduce. With Homo sapiens sapien, so let me go back. I think it's the capybaras are known for being ridiculously chill. They evolved in a place without predators. The danger of that is that if something has evolved for an environment that's predator-free, and they're transplanted into an environment that is predator-rich, they might not have the genetic wherewithal to be able to cope with that effectively. And in terms of evolution, coping means living long enough to pass on one's genetic material for the next generation. With Homo sapiens sapien, we evolved in perilous circumstances. And our ancestors who were born without the capacity for anxiety did not live long enough to pass on their genetic material. We are the descendants of evolutionarily successful neurotics. Therefore, the presence of anxiety in our life is not an indictment, nor is its absence an acquittal. So the real question is, how can we manage what's already there? There was a time in psychology and psychiatry where emotions were pathologized, and people would try to treat emotions with medication or prescriptions or procedures. But in the most recent of years, the emphasis is on acceptance and coping. So let us begin boringly, with the power of the conventional. Our minds are not abstract things. Our minds dwell in our brains dwell in our body. Our capacity to what's the word I'm thinking of? Our capacity to manage emotion is directly affected by our physical well-being. So let's go back to basics. Getting enough sleep, getting enough fresh air, sunshine, exercise, eating the foods we evolved to thrive upon, such as fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, grains, legumes, pulses, tubers. These things are crucial for our well-being. Hydration, super important. Will this make our anxiety go away? No. Will this make the cause of our anxiety go away? No. But will it help us to deal? Yes, it will help. Because our brain is our body and our central nervous system and our brain and our mind are a team effort. So we turn now to contemplative solutions. So although everything I'm going to teach you can be applied to sitting meditation, walking meditation is great when you are gripped with anxiety. We shall begin with the peril of certitude. A conventional assumption is that anxiety is about fear or lack of faith, so you just need to figure out what you want to happen and really, 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 really believe in it really, really hard, and then figure out what you don't want to happen and disbelieve in it really, 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 really hard. And mathematically, that might make sense, but experimentally, that doesn't work. Because, number one, faith and disbelief are two sides of the same coin. They are indulging the same mechanism. So let's explore that through the lens of neuroscience. When we try to disbelieve our fears, and when we try to believe our desires, we are indulging the part of our prefrontal cortex that makes possible active concentration, as well as the part of our prefrontal cortex that makes possible active contemplation. This draws our blood mass to the bottom of our limbic system, to the region described as the amygdala, which functions as the seat of both aggression and anxiety. So here's the great irony. Relying on strategic applications of faith and disbelief will increase our aggression, our anxiety, our rigidity, our lack of resourcefulness. Which nobody wants. Fortunately, there's a solution. When we replace active concentration with a passive mindfulness afforded us not from the prefrontal cortex, but from the sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord that is accessed during each inhalation. When we exercise the courage to notice our present moment experience, to notice the sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, to notice the emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, whether they are interesting or boring, whether they are pleasurable or painful, whether they are glorious or grotesque, by simply practicing vulnerability to the present moment, by practicing awareness vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly, we are taking our first step on the path of disengaging that which exacerbates our anxiety and towards that which increases our resourcefulness. But wait, there's more. Every time we exhale, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system. And I just had a terrible thought. Let me make sure that the audio is working correctly. Good, it appears to be. Phew. Okay, so every time we exhale, we access our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of its cervical region. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. So, passively noticing, and passively releasing is using a different part of the brain, different part of the central nervous system than faith and disbelief are. This is important. This prefrontal cortex evolved to problem solve. It does. If you want to organize a sock drawer or do calculus, then your prefrontal cortex rocks. It's awesome. But it did not evolve to manage our emotions. And when we try to use it to manage our emotions, it's kind of like trying to pound and finishing nails with a crystal goblet. It'll work exactly once, and then you have a half-hammered nail and a broken crystal goblet. When we use our prefrontal cortex for things it was not evolved to be used for, we wind up with an exhausted prefrontal cortex whose symptoms sometimes mirror that of depression, which nobody wants. So many times people start off with generalized anxiety disorder, and then they wind up with generalized anxiety disorder plus depression because good-hearted but lazy-minded therapists have them doing all sorts of mental gymnastics that their prefrontal cortex is not evolved to do. That's why there's a new push in psychotherapy for acceptance therapy. And the most efficient way to accept things is through the cunning use of our autonomic nervous system. Now, how does that relate to walking meditation? In his book, Walking Your Blues Away, the psychologist Tom Hartman describes that how neuroscience confirms that brisk walks, whether you lower your center of gravity or not, whether you take loping steps or mincing steps, brisk walking, especially if your arms are swinging, creates an asymmetric effect on our hippocampus, acting like as if it was massaging the hippocampus, which is adjacent to the amygdala. It's not really shown in this part here, but you can infer that it's right around here. It's here, then it loops up. So this hippocampus acts like the doorman to an exclusive club. Only this club is our long-term memory. So when we experience thoughts and emotions in the present moment for a prolonged period of time, that's trauma. When it's processed by the by the hippocampus, it's memory. So by massaging the hippocampus through brisk walking, our emotions of anxiety, our imaginations influenced by anxiety, our intentions influenced by anxiety, we can begin to experiencing them as past phenomena. Because let's face it, today's anxiety is a burden. But if we experience today's anxiety and yesterday's anxiety and last week's anxiety and last month's anxiety all at the same time, that's really overwhelming. So if you are really feeling anxious, I don't recommend going for a hike. I recommend walking around your block, because it's very difficult to step into traffic while you're limiting yourself to just walking around your block. Don't take your dog for a walk. That's a different time. This walk is just for you. As you breathe in, as you inhale, please silently and mentally recite, notice this, giving your mind permission to notice whatever comes up, whether it's external or internal or physical or mental or pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque. Notice it and give yourself permission to feel the full spectrum of emotions, as uncomfortable, as painful as it can be. Every time you exhale, silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb relaxing. Now remember, this noticing is not a contrivance. We're already wired to do that. This relaxing is not a contrivance. We're already wired to do that. Then why bother playing with these words? Simple. This 3-pound supercomputer between our ears can act like a precocious child. And with the best of intention, well, it can act like Urkel from Family Matters. Or is it Family Ties? I forget. But, knocking into things, did I do that? So, we can tame our inner Urkel by giving it a job to do. And by telling our beautiful 3-pound brain, hey, listen, I want you to silently and mentally recite this when we inhale and this when we exhale. It will do it with the utmost of enthusiasm, and as a fringe benefit of doing that, it will harmonize with the factory-installed wiring of our sympathetic and parasympathetic facets of our autonomic nervous system. Now, I don't expect you to believe me. I don't want you to believe me. Experiment with this. Prove me wrong. Play with this exercise as you walk around the block. If this is new to you, start off, use your smartphone, set your timer for 5 minutes, and the first time you do it for 5 minutes. Maybe the second day you can do it for 10 minutes. Maybe the third day you can do it for 15 minutes. No need to exhaust yourself. Respect your body's limitations. But if you do this once every 12 hours, it will go a long way, not just to boosting your health, but helping you cope with the very real perils that we as a nation find ourselves in. And this isn't just limited to the United States of America. There has been a resurgence of fascism pan-globally. And even in the most democratically socialistic countries, even in those, there is a minority of fascism, just being loud and aggressive. Fascistic tendencies are a stress response to peril, to the more, what's the word I'm looking for? The less nurturing a government is to its populace and the more predatory it is to its populace. The less the government protects its populace from the predatory nature of late-stage capitalism, the more they become anxious and they begin to become petulant and look for a parental figure to protect them, which creates room for the strong person to come in, or the illusion of the strong person to come in, usually goose-stepping and touting the tenets of fascism. This has been observed pan-globally by lettered people. This has been observed in peer-reviewed papers. This is not just some ravings of an oddly dressed fellow with weird hair. So, will your walking meditation cause all the fascists to disintegrate. No, it won't. But it'll make you more peaceful and therefore more loving. You see, when we replace our active concentration with passive meditation, when we replace our active contemplation with passive meditation, then our blood mass, formerly at our amygdala, the seat of fear and aggression, shifts to our anterior cingulate gyrus. The sanka meat is found 2 or 3 centimeters behind our forehead, and it functions as both the hub of our mirror neurons as well as the seat of empathy and compassion and love. That is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. The more you practice walking meditation according to these instructions, the more peaceful you will be, the more loving you will be, the more resourceful you will be, the more creative you will be, the more charismatic you will be, the more you will effortlessly influence others to do the same thing. Fascism needs fear and hate. We can drown it in a bathtub of love and peace. You, by applying these instructions regularly, can become the hero that you were waiting for. I look forward to exploring the fine details with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. I got what's it called? The screen on this laptop that I'm using was replaced, so the camera's really skewed. I'm going to have to get some help dealing with this week, so I apologize if my image is extra weird. Anywho. So, let's explore the fine details after 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This morning's practice text is titled Easy Meditation, and rumor has it is Buddha Cat approved. Let us begin with mindfulness, which is the 7th fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. So as I've already mentioned, every time we inhale, we access the sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord. It has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. Instead, it has evolved to help us to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Well, you might ask, if we're not supposed to actively concentrate, then what are we supposed to do with our breathing? Simple. We treat our breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. When we notice our body breathing in, we can silently and mentally recite the awkward 12-syllable phrase, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. When we notice our body breathing out, we can silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Now, this is awkward and ungainly. This is the first of 4 exercises I'm going to share with you to really get you up to speed with meditation. Or to use aeronautical terms, to help you to successfully climb to cruising altitude. So what I'd like to do right now is for us to play with this exercise for 16 rounds. Whoops, something really unfortunate happened here. Apparently I forgot to hit... Wow. Apparently I made a bunch of boo-boos and forgot to... That is weird. There we go. Well, that was kind of lame, and I apologize for the lameness. All right, here we go. Every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we access the sympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced within the thoracic region, the ribcage region of our spinal cord. It has evolved not to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration, but instead to help us to simply perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. So, if we're not supposed to actively concentrate, what are we supposed to do with our breathing? Simple. We treat our breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. When we notice our body breathing in, we can silently and mentally recite the 12 syllables, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. And when we notice our body exhaling of its own accord, we can silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Now this is ungainly and clunky. Fortunately, it's just the first of 4 exercises we're going to use to climb to contemplative cruising altitude. So to that ends, I would like it very much if together as a team we played with this exercise. Well, the camera really looks weird right now, doesn't it? We played with this exercise for 16 rounds. So, what is a round? In this context, a round is simply 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. But how are we going to count 16 rounds on just the 4 fingers and 1 thumb of our left hand? We're going to use a technique that was explained to me. It was taught to me many years ago that I like to call Bengali crease counting. This is completely optional. But what I'm going to do is advance the tip of my left thumb during each inhalation. And I'm going to place on various sets of creases on these fingers as well as fingertips. If you want, you can follow along with me, but bear in mind, I've been doing all this jibber-jabbering. I'm therefore breathing faster than you. Therefore, in the span of time it takes me to do 16 rounds, you might only do 8 or 12 rounds. That's fine. That's fine. Learning this technique might feel ungainly. That's okay. Play with it every 12 hours, and within a week or so, you will have mastered it. Let's dig into our 12-syllable exercise. Let us now explore meditation, the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. We'll start with a bit of review. Due to our sympathetic nervous system, every time we inhale, we're wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We're wired to notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. A very understandable reaction to that is the question, what do we do with all the stuff that we notice? And the answer is meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lower lumbar region of that same spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region. Thus, every time we exhale, we are wired for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Now, what I should have mentioned a few moments ago, and I didn't, to my great embarrassment, is this. Vulnerability is the key that unlocks the vault of mindfulness. Everybody's had the nightmare of being naked, walking naked through high school. Nudity is the epitome of vulnerability. Perhaps that is why the two figures comprising this archetype of meditation are likewise depicted as naked. Now, let's return to meditation. Every time we exhale, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation can begin to feel less graspable. Now, since complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, let us sprinkle a bit of figurative language upon this. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation can begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. Therefore, we must ask, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the hand. Perhaps that is why the individuals comprising this archetype of meditation are depicted as translucent and as non-graspable as a rainbow. During our inhalation, please silently and mentally recite sitting tall. It's reminding the tissues of our body to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head. During our exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite the three-syllable verb, relaxing. Welcome, my friends, to the second of 4 meditation exercises. 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is comprised of loving kindness. To be more precise, the second fold is wishing love, the third fold is kind communication, the fourth fold is kind conduct, and the fifth fold is kind commerce. Now what's going to happen next is let's review what was touched upon in our opening lesson. Every time we rely upon our active concentration and our active contemplation, our blood mass collects in the bottom of our limbic system at our amygdala, which functions as the seat of both aggression and anxiety. However, and this is the good news, when we replace active concentration with passive mindfulness, and when we replace active contemplation with passive meditation, our blood mass shifts to a hunk of meat known as the anterior cingulate gyrus. Once again, located about 2 or 3 centimeters behind our forehead, it functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. That is why Tibet's greatest Dzogchen Lamas have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. That is also most likely why the two individuals comprising this archetype of meditation are depicted as beautiful. As we breathe in, let us silently and mentally recite and notice this. As we exhale, let us continue to silently and mentally work with the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. This, my friends, is the third of 4 meditation exercises. We come now to effortless effort, the 6th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Most people think of effortless effort. They think of the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. That's fine. But yin and yang is not the sole domain of Taoism. And the Buddhist equivalent of that would be the character studies of Gautama and his wicked cousin Devadatta, where Devadatta thought it would be excellent. To be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, Gautama, the Buddha, thought it would be much better to be flexible, loving, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So, on the path of Devadatta, people say you have to work really, really hard, be self-disciplined, and have a joyous existence. Whereas the Buddha said, no. Joy is the fourth of the seven enlightenment factors, and effort can be effortless. But how could that work? Excuse me. Simple. Consider, if you will, this artwork. This gal, the color of a cumulus cloud, is seen actively sporting in tantric union, reminding us that contrivance is always trumped by spontaneity. Now let us consider her partner, the color of the azure sky. He appears to be passively enjoying the same tantric union, reminding us that not all spontaneity is created equal, and that the scattered spontaneity we might experience after our third espresso in 30 minutes will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity, which is the natural fringe benefit of our practice of mindfulness and meditation. Now, how does this apply to effortless effort? Simple. When our choices and utterances and deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, then our life could be as blissful as the real or imagined paradise or pure land or vati depicted in Buddhist art. For this, our fourth of 4 meditation exercises, during our inhalation, let us kick back and simply observe the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. Let us do this during our inhalation as silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. Similarly, during our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb, ease. Having climbed to the contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as Rey on Ahch-To under the guidance of Luke Skywalker. Let's discuss right view, the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Elitists upon the path of Devadatta will tell you it's very, very difficult to understand right view, and it requires a PhD. But Gautama said, no, man, you can master this path in a week. And right view is just about impermanence. And it's not something to be believed, it's something to be experienced. Every time we breathe in, we notice changes. Sometimes those changes are subtle, sometimes they're coarse. We can't help but notice them. Some of those changes feed our stress. Some of those changes feed our release. We notice visual changes, auditory changes, sensual changes. We notice gustatory changes. We notice olfactory changes. We notice emotional changes, intentional changes, cognitive changes. We notice changes in what we recall from moment to moment. No less what we fantasize day to day. Think of it this way. With the changing of the seasons, we see the impermanence of a year. With the waxing and the waning of the moon, we see the impermanence of a month. With the rising and the setting of the sun, we see the impermanence of a day. With the swelling and the sinking of our chest, we feel the impermanence of a breath. Ever changing, one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Welcome to this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Now, there is a lag time, so if it takes me a while to notice your question, please don't take that personally. I check for questions at least once every 8 minutes or so. But simply put, as you breathe in, the easiest way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun, this. Now you might say, but we're already wired for mindfulness due to the play of our sympathetic nervous system. And the answer is yes, we are. And we're also wired to let go due to the play of our parasympathetic nervous system. But silently and mentally reciting this in ease helps the precocious 3-pound supercomputer between our head to stop interfering with our autonomic nervous system and instead cooperate with it. Let's bring the 5 regions of the body into the path of bliss and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can now begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amoghasiddhi Buddha, comprised entirely or only of emerald-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever navel we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Ratnasambhava Buddha, comprised only of gold-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever chest we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can now begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Akshobhya Buddha, comprised only of sapphire-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever throat we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amitabha Buddha, comprised only of ruby-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever crown or scalp or top of our head we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Vairochana Buddha, comprised only of diamond-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined mustard seed-sized syllable ah, comprised only of emerald-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever navel we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined seed-syllable, mustard seed-sized syllable thrum comprised only of gold-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever chest we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined mustard seed-sized syllable whom comprised only of sapphire-colored light. No worries, James. I'm always happy to have you arrive. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever throat we might have noticed during the previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined, mustard seed-sized syllable free, comprised only of ruby-colored light. Thank you, James. During our as we relax into our exhalation, whatever scalp or crown we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined mustard seed-sized syllable own, comprised only of diamond-colored light. Let us bring the 5 elements into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dynamism, movement, or wind we might have noticed during our inhalation could feel less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever solidity or earth we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever moisture or water we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is not graspable to the hand. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever warmth or fire we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, open space. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever spaciousness or openness we might have experienced during our previous inhalation can now begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast expanse. Let us bring the 5 aggregates into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body or form we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever feelings of pleasure or pain we might have noticed during our previous inhalation might begin to feel less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, to whatever degree we might appraise or rate the volume or intensity of that pleasure or pain, could begin to feel as if it was less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever impulses we might have noticed during our previous inhalation that arose from after rating the intensity of our pleasure or pain, impulses such as hating or craving or clinging, these drives could begin to feel as if they were less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mind or awareness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less graspable. Let us bring the 5 mental poisons into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dullness or befuddlement we might have experienced during our previous inhalation could begin to feel less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy or competitiveness or vying we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride or grasping or clinging we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel less graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate or aversion we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel less graspable. Let us seal this morning's practice by percussively chanting the Heart of Wisdom Sutra using a gentle golf clap before our upper chest. It is and then Guanji and Rosa and archetype of love and letting go, while moving in the deep peace of the perfect understanding of awareness and release. Shed light on the five aggregates and found them to be equally empty. After this realization, she made peace with all pain. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. The same is true with feeling, appraisal, impulse, and awareness. Listen, Shariputra, all phenomena are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither corrupted nor purified, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no appraisal, no impulse, and no awareness that once perceived cannot be released. No sensation, no flavor, no scent, no sound, no sight, no phenomena that once perceived cannot be released. No body, no tongue, no nose, no ears, no eyes, no mind that once perceived cannot be released. No feeling, no tasting, no smelling, no hearing, no seeing, no noticing that once perceived cannot be released. No interdependent origins and no extinction of them, from confusion to aging and death that once perceived cannot be released. No stress, no confusion, no liberation, no path, no understanding, and no attainment that once perceived cannot be released. Because there is no attainment that once perceived cannot be released, the Bodhisattva archetypes of awareness and letting go supported. By the perfection of understanding, find no obstacles for the minds that once perceived cannot be released. Having no obstacles that once perceived cannot be released, they transcend the tyranny of fear. Liberating themselves forever from the tyranny of illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future, thanks to this perfect understanding of noticing and releasing, arrive at full right and universal enlightenment. Therefore one should know that this perfect understanding of noticing and releasing is like a great mantra, is like an unequaled mantra. The destroyer of the tyranny of all suffering, the incorruptible truth. A mantra of prajna paramita's perfect wisdom of awareness and release could therefore be proclaimed. This is the mantra gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Gone completely, and perfectly gone to enlightenment. May it be so. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.